again. We've had to prevail on the library to use the smart TV. So I'd like to introduce Michael Tyler, who's the Community Account Manager of the NBN Code, and give us an update on what's happening in Glendale, and particularly with the decommissioning of certain areas.
Thank you, Ewan, and thanks everybody for your time again. My presentation this evening is going to be very, very quick. I've got a couple of messages that I want to deliver, but primarily what I want to say is that there are two parts of Gungahlin that are coming up for the copper decommissioning, which means that as of the 17th of July and the 30th of July, so in about a month's time, two areas of Gungahlin, the old copper network will be disconnected, and if customers wish to maintain a landline phone and internet service, they need to order an NBN service. I've been to these council meetings on a number of occasions and spoke more around the benefits of the NBN, and I thank Ewan for the invitation and his support in what we've done there. But today, I don't really want to focus on that. I really want to get the message out to the residents and businesses of Gungahlin that time is very short. If you do need to maintain a landline phone and internet, and I certainly recognise that there will be a percentage of the population that will opt for mobile wireless and mobile phones for wireless internet and for telephone. But for those that do wish to maintain, particularly around medical alarms and for businesses with FPOS machines, fire alarms, back-to-base monitoring, that sort of thing, it is time now to really order a service. So I'll move through the presentation fairly quickly. I've got a couple of maps and the like that we can step through, and then leave it to questions at the end so that we're not taking up too long. As I said, time to switch, 17th of July and 30th of July this year. NBN is replacing existing landline phone links, ADSL internet and Telstra cable internet services in these areas. The important point which I'd like to say right at the outset is that as long as you have placed an order with your retailer, you need to order an NBN service through your retailer, or so your preferred phone and internet company. As long as that order is received and received in the NBN code system by 5 p.m. on the 16th or the 29th of July, residents and businesses will not be disconnected. So that's what's called an in-train order. What that means is that you will not be disconnected when the programming runs at the back end to say, right, we're turning off this service, we're turning off that service. This is the map showing the two areas that are going to be disconnected on the 17th and 30th, as I said. So it's taking a section of the sort of CBD here and around on this side of Gungahlin as well. The take-up rates are going quite well. There are, in particular, what's known as Gungahlin 6 is doing really quite well, but the other area in this section here doesn't have as much take-up rate. So what I would encourage people to do through, talk to your neighbours, talk to your friends, talk to family, whatever it is, let them know that if they wish to maintain that landline phone and internet service, please call phone and internet. For some harder to reach segments of the community, some that might be English as a second language, for instance, or older Australians as well, there are assistants through our contact centre to make sure that they go through the necessary steps to get that service ordered. But now, as I said, we've come here. It has been, and I would like to thank the community of Gungahlin for their patience as we have connected. Being one of the first sites around Australia, you do face some of the challenges of connecting, and also retailers bringing their information up to speed, and so on the NBN side as well. But as I said, today is really about getting that message out that you do need to just call your phone company. And for older Australians, sometimes this can be quite a foreign, and my parents aren't particularly old, and I hope they're going to watch this webcast later on, actually. But it's quite a challenging, telecommunications is quite a challenging issue for them. Just my message to them is get your last phone bill, call that telephone number, order the NBN service, because I don't want anybody left behind. Just a very, very quick touch. The majority of Gungahlin now is what's referred to as ready for service, or customers can order a service. There were some challenges in those on the previous slides that I showed you in relation to multi-dwelling units. Those have now been resolved and those customers are able to order. a service. Complex commercial premises are a different matter, but those customers will be handheld and communicated to separately, so I'm not concerned about those. So again, I'm aware that there's quite a number of rental properties, which is going to be difficult to get in contact with landowners, especially if those properties are vacant. If you don't order a service, I should say as well, prior to that date, doesn't mean that you can't get an NBN service. You certainly can. But if you had an existing landline service, you may have the copper disconnected, so that you will lose that functionality of the landline phone and internet service. Similarly, if you've got new people coming into the area, they can order an NBN service, and just like you do any other utility, it'll get connected and away you go. Again, and this is just showing, for illustrative purposes, this disconnection is not just about these two particular areas in Gungala. Can everybody sort of see that if I turn it that way? The whole of the area that is ready for service will be disconnecting progressively throughout this year. However, there's a few changes, and it only just came through I didn't have time to update the pack, it came through about half an hour ago. But these fibre serving area modules relating to 21 December and 30 December, their disconnection dates will be shifted out of the holiday season, because it's just not right to be disconnecting people when they're thinking about going away for holidays, Christmases, New Year's, etc., etc. So sense has prevailed in so much as that's going on. But we will be here. I will be coming back. I'll be talking with the grace of the Gungahlin Community Council to keep reinforcing for these individual areas, these different fibre serving area modules as they're called, that you need to order a landline phone and internet service if you wish to maintain it on the NBN. So those are the dates. Don't need to go through it. Well, actually, that might be a better slide so that people can see the dates. So this is just a description of the fibre serving area module here, and this is its disconnection date. So these two here, which refers to fibre serving area module 2 and fibre serving area module 4, those dates will be shifted to early 2015. I don't have the exact dates with me, they're just being shifted out of the holiday season. So what you need to do, the message is very simple today, as I said, is call your preferred phone and internet service provider, order an NBN service as soon as possible, make sure that your friends, older Australians, neighbours that might not have English as a second language, they may, some of the material and we have to have a lot of that information in the material, isn't as succinct as it might otherwise be, but to comply with various rules and regulations, that information does have to be in there, but the message can get lost. And it's not particularly hard. It's actually a relatively simple process to order that service. Disregarding that there can be challenges with installs if there's blocked leading conduits and the like, installers that might not have done the best job that they could have done. But the point here is that if you get that service in, you will not be disconnected and you'll maintain your functionality of landline, phone and internet services. What's that date? 17th of July? No, it's got to be received in the NBN Co portal by 5 PM on the day prior. So the 16th of July and the 29th of July. But what that doesn't mean is that you can order it at 4:30 on the day before, because differing retailers have different ways of getting that information through into NBN Co. So that's the message. I don't want to say just make sure you do it before 5 PM because you may very well miss out. The message is do it now. There's just over a month literally to go.
Is Gungahlin going to be the first area in Australia not to have any copper?
No, we've been through that with Kiama and Armidale in New South Wales. There's been parts of Brunswick in Victoria, Toowoomba, I think, or maybe another part in Queensland. So it's referred to internally as the first 15 fibre serving area modules. We're now onto the second 16 fibre serving area modules. And similarly, it's worth touching on where the focus, and I know that multi-dwelling units have been an issue down here. the multi-dwelling unit team were focusing on those priority fibre serving area modules to make sure that they could order, or customers there could order a service. So now it shifted to Gungahlin, cleared out Gungahlin, and it now moves on to the next 17, so on and so forth. So referring back to that previous map, those areas will get the focus of the team as we move forward.
So those cut-off dates, the emphasis should be on the ISP putting in the order by 5 p.m.
That's correct. But to do that, some can do it within their sort of, I'll use the term, it's not quotable, batch upload, let's say. Their batch upload might take 36 hours. Others might do it weekly. Others might do it over 10 days. And we can't actually determine how quickly that gets into our system.
So ideally it should be a 2-week window.
Ideally. So we're short on time. So the point is now is don't, if you need it, go with it, and order it now. Don't leave it to the last minute. And we're doing an event next week to inform the media of that as well. So any news in this regard is good news to make sure that we're getting that out.
When you mentioned Gungahlin, does it include all the suburbs in the Gungahlin region?
No, just those two on the map that I showed you. So if I go back up to here, so I'm not sure if you can see it from there, but they're Hipperson, Goddard Street, Hipperson Street going through here. So there's actually a cut-off within Hipperson Street. One's going on the 17th, the other's going on the 30th. So it's in and around the CBD area. All the multi-dwelling units in those areas.
What's the time frame for the other suburbs within the Gungahlin?
Yep. So you've got, so it's to be refined. But basically what you've got here is 17th of July, the 30th of July. The next one to go is the 28th of September. This is down near, through the Canberra Racecourse area, Flemington Road, Hoskins Street, and then it moves into the 23rd of October, which is up around Burdekin Avenue, heading out through Mulligan's Flat Road there. But then these two, as I said, are going to move into 2015, so I don't actually have those dates as yet.
So without the ignorance of some people who don't know at all about what's happening, totally disconnected. What happens there? Is there any chance of getting some sort of exposure on TV for them?
Well, what we're trying to do here, that's why we're doing this media event next week, to try and get it into the press and radio as well, so that we're trying to cover all mediums as much as possible. We've been doing, we've had the kiosks in the two shopping centres up here for the last couple of weeks, and we're doing door knockings. We've actually just concluded that. So we're actually door knocking every premises that that has an order to NBN service. And we will try three times to contact the premises. So the door knockers will go through, didn't get that one, they'll go back, do it again, go back, do it again, and after that, that's a considerable cost, obviously, door knocking, having people in the field like that. But that's where we take a view at a certain uptake rate that we need to do more than just direct marketing through mail and the like. But that's why we're doing the media event as well, so that we can start the conversation.
So it's fairly well saturated.
Yeah, so look, there's been, the process is, I haven't included it in this, actually I might have it in the pack a bit later on for tonight, but what we have done is there's been at least 3 direct marketing communications, and that's why I said it's working, but it has to be to cover off all the rules and regulations. And that's obviously a concern, is if people just go, oh, that's too hard, I'll worry about it later. Well, later's now. So now's the time to act. And so, as I said, the door knocking, the kiosks in the centre location there, press and radio, ads, and again, PR as well.
Many people opting not to have it.
Yeah, look, it varies region by region, but we estimate that somewhere between 10 and 15% will opt to go fully wireless. So, and obviously that depends as well on where they're employed, and sometimes that can be part of it. As long as you don't abuse the use of the internet, you can do what you need to do. But there is a larger portion, and particular renters as well. They tend to move with wireless communications as opposed to having a landline because they may be moving through. And I'm aware too, because Gungahlon's a new suburb, there's probably some overseas owners as well that might not necessarily be getting that communication. And as I said, I just want to allay that concern that if they did choose to move back, or a new tenant chooses to move in, they can still order a service. But what will happen, just picking up on a thread that you had there, is if you do not order a service, but you have a landline, current landline, active landline, you'll get what's called a soft dial tone for a period of up to 20 days. Now what that says is a recorded message basically saying that your landline phone service has been disconnected. To order a service, please call Telstra on blah, 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 or those customers can dial 000 for emergency calls for a period of up to 20 days. Pardon? Yeah, so there's a bit of warning there. So if you pick up the internet, doesn't work. So your internet will just go, but phone to give people, the ability to call still. Yeah. And it does faults and emergencies as well, but that's all. So I'll just skip down a couple. So taking on a business angle, in particular if you are a small business owner or a business owner or you know people, what they need to do here, businesses, is make sure that for their phone and internet, they call their phone and internet supplier. You're not going to go through retailers. But for things like FPOS terminals, security alarms and fire alarms, they need to ensure that they also call the device provider. So if that, for argument's sake, is St George Bank, you need to call St George Bank and say, I've got an NBN service, I've switched to the NBN, can you please make sure that my FPOS machine will work on the NBN? Now, all of the banks have got products and services that can fulfill it, you just need to tick it off. So for businesses, it's a two-stage process. Make sure your phone and internet's working, and then make sure your alarms, FPOS machines and the like are working. And more importantly as well is medical alarms. So for older Australians or those who have serious illnesses that do have the push medical alarms, again, there are retailers and products that work on the NBN. We've tested them in our test laboratory in Melbourne and they are working. But you don't want to leave that to chance. You want to make sure that you've ordered the NBN service, you're connected to the NBN service, and that your device is working. So call Vital Call, for instance, and say, is it working? Please do a test, make sure. And on that point, we've got what's called a medical alarm register. Now don't notice the date here, May 23rd, because this was pushed out to bring the date forward. But what this medical alarm register, if people register their details as I am a medical alarm user, they can go on a register and we will, together with the retailer, make sure that everything is working 100% well before any disconnection gets taken place. They're actually case managed through to make sure that they're not going to be left in a certain situation should they need to use their medical alarm. And look, this is, I'll leave it there, but look, this just goes through and says, the letters I was talking to 6 and 3 months out, print and radio, advertising and PR. The kiosk was there the 3rd to the 11th of May. The door knocking was from the 9th to the 7th of June. We've done Gungahlon Community Council meetings. So I can put another one down in terms of what we've done.
In your door knocking, have you formed any opinion of the demographics of people that haven't taken them up yet?
Yeah, it would be around the renters in particular. And I think it's probably a little too early to go into real specifics, given it was 23rd of May. It tends to sweep through. I mean, it's the renters. It can also be, families without kids that are just don't need it, don't want it. Of course, as the data plans get better and better from mobile phone providers as well, people are opting not to have that. But equally, we've had, for instance, in Kiama 1, so the first FSM in Kiama, there was over 85% take-up in that fibre-serving area module. So, there's certainly plenty of pros and cons, as I said, but I didn't want to take too much time on that today other than to get this message out, which is just those, if I could recap, if I couldn't be so direct, is just those, the 4 messages, oops, I've gone too far, which is just, is call and order, do it now, and tell others about it as well. Because we just don't want anybody left behind.
Yeah, also remote. How does that work? That's meant by
GPS, yeah. So, oh, sorry, not GPS. It's a it's like a SIM card. Yeah. So, and some businesses are opting for that as well.
so with that at home, so wouldn't it be a process?
No. No. If it's just mobile, that's fine. Yeah, just like a mobile phone. Yeah. Yes, sir.
There was one suburb on that that wasn't there, and that's Franklin, which is already got private homes. I did get a letter some months ago, but I haven't heard since then. As to,
Yeah. So you're in the train.
My friend here is already in Transact. He's got his, but
Yeah.
shouldn't just stand by and wait.
So do you have an active Transact service now?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So if you have, I'll give you the Transact spiel. If you have an active Transact service now and you're with IINet, IINet will call you to make an appointment to transition you to National Broadband Network. The reason for that is it's an actual technical. We can't run a dual network into your premises. So it's simply a matter of going sort of unplug from one splitter in the fibre distribution hub. Transact calls something different. I'll call it a fibre distribution hub because that's the only term I know, and replug it into another splitter, which is pointed to the NBN. So that migration or the transition to the NBN will occur in a phased pattern so that you move in sort of tranches, I guess, for want of a better term, from, okay, we're going to do this 400 customers, this 400, this 400, this 400. So yes, in effect, you don't need to do anything at this point in time. Just keep on using it as you would, and you'll be contacted.
Do you release details of that transition process?
No, we don't even have them yet. Well, we have them to an extent, but it's managed. It's managed by a combination between Transact and NBN code, and there's a whole series of steps that need to occur to move forward. But basically, the message with the Transact customers is if you have an active Transact service or IINet service, you will be contacted.
Because I noticed that it's starting to get a bit of traffic on some of the websites on Crace because of that.
Yeah, and look, it's a complicated process, and last time I didn't have quite the information when I was here a month or two ago that I have this time, and I better understand the reasoning in why. We actually have to move, as I said, it's a physical move, and so that has to be scheduled in advance, made an appointment, otherwise customers will end up not having service, and we can't run a dual network into that premises.
I've been seeing feedback from people that are in a Transact area, just moved into the area,
Yes.
and they can't go either way. So Transact's saying no, we can't take on the customer, and then the provider saying no because that split thing up.
Yep.
So what's what can happen for those guys?
Yeah, so basically they need to call the contact centre and we'll investigate their particular individual issue, for want of a better term. So we just need to see whether there's capacity within the splitter physically and what needs to be done so that they can order a service. And because of some of the classification rules in terms of how we have to transition customers to meet the ACCC rules, etc., it can get caught in the two systems. So just call the contact centre and we can work through actually transitioning. There's a dedicated team. I sit on a working group on a weekly basis, making sure that these things are being resolved in a timely fashion. So it's just it's a little bit difficult, as we're buying different networks, different systems. It's a different, not a different technology, but a different back-end system, and we just need to make sure that we get those through correctly. But yeah, just the number.
And what's the big news on Nichols?
So look, hasn't been publicly announced as yet, and thank you, Ewan, for that Dorothy Dixon. That was great of you. Look, it appears from my learned colleague Darren Rudd, and I'll put that on the webcast, that's for sure, that Nichols, it looks as though we'll be connected. The way that our website works, and it leads me on to another point, we've just updated our website to show Now what we have, build preparation, which is a green colouring, then have the brown, which is build commenced, and purple, which is ready for service. So build preparation refers to the Telstra remediation. So we've done the rod and roping, Telstra are going through and upgrading the network to make sure it's capable of handling the fibre. The brown section means that a contract has been issued, and that area will be completely and utterly built, and there's no problems with that. Nichols isn't at that stage yet. So that's what I would like to see, is when we have what's called a build instruction, i.e. a signed contract between NBN and delivery partner to build that area.
So has Telstra started their remediation process?
Not yet, I don't think. Yes, that may very well be the case, but it's not been officially entered into, as I understand it. And look, I'm getting way out of my depth, so I don't want to, in terms of where we're at to in that actual process for Nichols.
So what's the official statement of NBN in the case of Nichols? We don't have
I think you should refer to the comments made by Darren Rudd.
Is that
on radio?
It goes on the radio.
I'll dig out the media clip and I'll send it through to you. How about that? Yes. Thank you. That'll be the official statement of NBN. I'm not getting drawn into this.
No.
I'm not getting drawn into it. Look, I mean, to be honest, everything looks and sounds as though that's what's going to happen. But as I said, I just want to have the build instruction issued, and then we can come down and I can talk to you to the cows come home about what it's going to mean and where we're going to go and what are the benefits for those people there.
Should we turn off the link and then you
You sent me that as well.
Yes, I can. Absolutely.
I have heard from people that they can get signing up to the
It's
Is that possible?
News to me. The way the process has to work is you have to contact your preferred phone and internet supplier, order a service. They then select an appointment through our portal for the work to be done. It's a two-stage appointment. You get the outside premises connection device, otherwise known as the connection box on the utility box. And you have a second appointment, which is to have the NTD, otherwise known as the connection box, installed in your phone. I don't know if that's. I certainly can't see how that would be possible.
It's the first one.
No, NBNK is not a retailer. So it's a similar analogy to the poles and wires. So with Actu, you pay a service availability fee to connect to the poles and wires, and then how much you use is the usage. That's what the retailer provides. So haven't heard of that.
And any possible policies that might come out of NBN in relation to requiring a certain quantum before those extra services are connected further down the track? It's not going to be a one-on-one basis, is it? You think?
Sorry.
If someone did opt to get connected now,
yep.
a year or so down the track,
yep.
An individual going to have to wait until a certain number of new one?
No. It just happens as per a normal utility appointment. So it'll be dependent. Sorry, I didn't quite get that. It just would depend on how many other people and what are the crews that are associated with the area in terms of your lead time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no further questions. I thank Michael, and we look forward for more updates. But rather concerned about the level of uptake in case they get a significant number of people still haven't tweaked to the fact that they're going to lose landlines.
Yeah, and that's the real message from me today is about that particular area. Okay. Thanks very much for your time. Thank you. Close, I guess. Yeah. You can do it.
Yes.
I'd like to introduce our next speaker, it's Dr. Chris Burke, MLA, who's going to give us a rundown on the implications of the ACT budget. Absolutely. Also like to recognise Alistair Coe.
Where are you standing, Chris?
Pardon?
So where are you standing?
Oh, I'll stand here. It's good. That's wrong.
That's good. Sure, come.
I should have.
Andrew was there.
I was busy. Very good. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, I acknowledge the honourable custodians of the land we're meeting on, and also my Assembly colleague over there, Alistair Coe. Hello. Good letter from Tim McGee in the paper today, I see. Well done. What I'm going to talk about is the ACT budget as advertised. I'm going to talk about where that fits in the environment where we are in our country, the milieu created by the Commonwealth Government, and our national situation. You'll all be aware that the recent federal government gave Canberra a pretty raw deal, our town a pretty raw deal. $375 million was cut out of ACT programs, $250 million cut out of our health, $20 million cut out of our local government, that's the roads and sort of programs. And they're talking about 6,500 job cuts over 4 years. This is significant stuff. Now, those of you who are in town and in business like me in 1996 will have seen the consequences of that kind of action before here. We had people lose their jobs, people go bankrupt, lose their businesses. I think we even had 3 quarters of negative growth. We came back, but there was pain and suffering in the meantime. Since 2001, Labor's been working to deliver sustained operating surpluses within the ACT budget. We've developed a strong balance sheet and also diversified our economy, and specific examples of that are the work we've done with ANU and UC to develop tertiary education as an industry which fits very well within the Canberra environment. We've got one of the lowest unemployment rates, or in fact the lowest unemployment rate in the country, and the second highest workforce participation rate. And one of the interesting things that came out was that the work that we've done to increase exports. Now, you might not think of the ACT as a big exporter. In 2005, we had exports worth $700 million. In 2013, it was $1.3 billion. And that's in services, in education, and in tourism. So these are the kind of things that we've been doing to diversify the economy, to be prepared to weather the kind of shocks that Commonwealth governments can hand out. So here we are in 2014. What do we do? Do we run an austerity budget, pull the purse strings in, go tight, and everybody suffers and things get really bad? Or do we do what we've done? We show as a government some support for our economy. We support that by building infrastructure. We borrow to build that infrastructure, and we borrow not for our recurrent costs but to build the infrastructure. And that's why we've announced $2.5 billion of infrastructure spend over the next 4 years. This is going to mean about 1,000 extra jobs, perhaps 2,000 during the peak times. And this is going to be productive infrastructure that is so important for our community. The light rail project, which is particularly interesting for people who live in Gungahlin, I would have thought. The UC Public Hospital, not too far away down the road. The Gungahlin office block, which is already what you're aware of. The Barton Highway Williams Slim intersection, which I know the Gungahlin Community Council was telling me about when the budget was being considered, and they were talking about things that you wanted for the budget. This is something that we've funded in this budget. Work on the Hibberson and Hinder Streets, and also a Canberra Connect shopfront here in Gungahlin. So these are the kind of infrastructure that we're doing around town, and specifically in Gungahlin. Just going back to our economic position, our debt ratio is about 12%, which is one of the lowest in the country, better than most. And the Commonwealth Government has also, interestingly, set up an opportunity for us with the Commonwealth Government Asset Recycling Initiative, where they're going to give us 15% of the cost as a bonus of any assets we can recycle. So we sell a government asset off, and then can build another government asset, and we get a 15% bonus to help us do that, which makes some things interesting. So we're doing things with the ACTAB, as you may know. We've talked about the street lights, selling them, and we've talked about selling off aged public housing, and then doing a roof-for-roof program so that we don't actually reduce our amount of housing stock, but we change it around and renew it. And this could be some of the ways that we're going to be using to do that $2.5 billion of infrastructure that I was talking about, and gain that 15% Commonwealth Asset Recycling Initiative money. Now, a lot of people are interested perhaps in the streetlight issue, because it's probably something that we haven't heard of here in Canberra before, but the truth is that almost every capital city, Sydney, Adelaide, Perth, have already sold their streetlights and then rent them back, and the people provide, the owners of the streetlights provide the lighting, and it means that we're able to get them to do some interesting things around energy use, particularly initiatives like using low energy lighting, like using systems which switch down when no car or pedestrian or cyclist is near the light, and then switch up again when someone comes near it. And those are the kinds of initiatives that companies can be interested in as part of their investment program in that infrastructure. And it means instead of us tying up our capital, we can then use it for schools and hospitals. You'll have heard about the tax reform, and I know you'll have heard that there's been an increase in the rates, and I'm happy to say that Gungahlin has a lower than average ACT rate increase. But this tax reform has been an ongoing program for several years, and it's something we did take to the 2012 election, which you all know. And it has means that we can really make some savage cuts to things like stamp duty and the insurance duty, which are both inefficient and unfair taxes. We've also made the land tax, which if you own an investment property, you'll notice fairer, because we're going to shift some of the land tax from houses to flats to make it a bit more fairer for people who own houses. We've also done some payroll tax reform and allocated another $4.5 million extra for Canberra businesses to provide some more business support in Canberra. One of the most interesting things that may appeal to some in the room is the over 60 stamp duty concession, where we're helping older Canberrans downsize their house with a stamp duty concession, which could add up to more than $20,000 on that, which is a great saving. So just coming back to some Gungahlin specific things, there's the Civic to Gungahlin corridor improvements, which will be about $20 million over 2 years to prepare works which will improve travel and amenity in the corridor in the lead up to the Capital Metro. And that's about roads, paths, drainage and intersections. $1.6 million for the staffing and maintenance of the Gungahlin Leisure Centre, which you'll be happy is now open and running. $450,000 to look at the needs of the community out here with regard to emergency services and the Joint Emergency Services Centre. Ecological and infrastructure work around extending the Gatchandera grasslands and the Mulungiri nature reserves, including the important monitoring of the habitat and the condition of the endangered striped legless lizard.
Further details on
On that particular initiative?
on the extension.
Yes. Not, but I can get them for you. I'll just make a note. If you make a note and just email me tomorrow, I'll find out more details about things that people want to know that I can't answer.
Sorry. Someone from the chief ministers up the screen.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. So they didn't pass it on.
No. Not at all. These things happen. Furthermore, we're committed to developing some low-cost cabin and camping facilities at Exhibition Park so that we can offer a different tourist alternative for accommodation here in Canberra, and that'll be very useful. There's $5 million over 3 years for the upgrade of Horse Park Drive and Anthony Rolfe Avenue. I think Horse Park Drive's not finished, isn't it? It is finished. Not quite. And also, of course, the Madeira Parkway, which is on the way. So what's been the reaction to this budget? Well, we've retained our AAA credit rating, as you may have heard, and a range of organisations have come out and said good things about it, including the Business Council, the Chamber of Commerce, the HIA, the MBA, the Association of Independent Schools, Medicare Local ACT, the Insurance Council, the Heart Foundation, the Youth Council, or the Youth Coalition, I should say, and the ACT Council of Social Services, not to name all of them, but to name some of them. And what are the current signs showing us about the confidence in the ACT economy? Well, I suppose you heard today that those blocks in Campbell sold for $64 million, which was $20 million over the reserve, and at the most recent land auction in Lawson, most of the properties went for 25 to 30% over the reserve, which is about $81,692 according to the price. So you've got to say that there's a lot of people out there who have a high level of confidence. There's three things that I want to emphasise about the budget. There's no cuts, and there's no cuts. There's no cuts to public servants, there's no cuts to services, and there's no cuts to concessions. Although I will qualify that slightly by saying that the Specsavers subsidy scheme has been capped at $200 for every 2 years. But that's not really a cut, is it? The money for the IT initiative will be used to develop an iConnect program, which is going to shift government services more online, because obviously dealing with people at the shop front is a more expensive way to do business than dealing online. So we'll be making significant investments over the years to bring that on. So that's about it in detail. Maybe people want to ask me some questions, and I'll see if I can provide you with an answer. A monorail. Well, if you look at the monorail in Sydney, it was yeah.
And I said, look, not talking about the light rail then, I said, the light rail seems to be probably the better option. Because essentially it looks like it fits in the landscape, there's plenty of very good in, and it's going to essentially look and stuff. And if energy efficient, it's quiet, and there's so many things going for it, but no one ever brought it up. No, I think forget about Sydney, because Sydney's designed different. If they look at Japan, it's entirely different. They work over it, and then scopes very, very well. Energy efficient, they're quiet, and so they can go over lakes, anything like that. And they can put as many in there to transport people around, just greater than the low rail. Well, yeah, I think the cost probably end up about the same. When you consider the distance of one line.
It is a form of light rail, and as yet we don't know what physical form it will take.
That's right, so it hasn't been assessed.
No. Oh, it might have been well, it might be in the process of being assessed, but
No, I'm talking about the monorail.
Yeah, I'm sure
Is
that
that
they,
an option?
I'm sure
It
that
could
they
be an
were
option.
considering all the different options.
But it really came up in the conversation last week.
Well, we don't
So
know.
we don't know.
We don't know what they're considering. And remember, that's what they're doing now. That's what the first $20 million is all about. Is that they're going to do the investigations, and I'm sure that they will go ahead with some form of public transport that is rail based, whether it's a monorail or whether it's a heavy rail or whether it's a light rail.
Well, that's what I say today.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what the chief was saying. Yeah. I think Jacob is.
At the last meeting,
Oh.
there was a talk given on the light rail.
Sure.
But what concerned me was there's completely no different how they're going to go out. There are other options such as requested proposals. You don't you tell us what sort of proposals you have put in your system here. And that seems to be missing. I would have looked at the industry and said, tell us what you've done. And then from those proposals, you're not committed to anything, and you look back and you say, what you thought.
we've got another session on like that next meeting, and hopefully it probably will have reached that stage where we might get those sort of responses.
Oh, I look forward to hearing the answers about the monorail.
If you have a look at the light rail, you'll see that it's going to stop just like a bus. The trucking will stop. So to allow for the train to bypass the cars on the road. So there's going to be a certain amount of instructions in the plan. It has to. It's common sense. But I mean, it's all about cost too, isn't it?
Yeah, I think probably the first thing that comes to my mind when you talk about a monorail in an environment like Canberra as opposed to a monorail in an environment like Sydney is accessibility, getting people up to the monorail. Now, that might be okay for those of us who are hale and hearty and just can run upstairs, walk upstairs. I was going to speak for myself. But for people who require a lift to get up, then suddenly you're really complicating their access and their capacity to be able to use the system.
Yeah, I did think of that.
Whereas in Sydney, you know, it goes around the buildings and they've all got lifts in those buildings, so people can get up to the lifts.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
And they've
But
pulled it out.
there are stairs and lifts that do get accommodated for other things around here, the monorails and like that. So, I mean, people do it if they have to. But it's all about cost, really. So, I thought it hasn't been really assessed because I hadn't heard of it in the last morning.
Well, there's a great question.
question.
Yeah, there's the great questions for the next session. For Jacob, yeah, Jacob had a question.
Because I understand that there was a budget allocation for almost 1.5 million also a few years back for the duplication of Williamsville Drive. I just want to know whether any budget allocation for that duplication, where that study is at the moment, and whether there is any budget allocation in this budget for duplication of the Williamsville Drive.
Look, I know the consultation, there's been consultation happening around the duplication of Gundaroo Drive, but firstly, the intersection, as I've just said, needs to be sorted out. That work needs to be done, and then you can contemplate the duplication of Gundaroo Drive. I would have thought.
There is budget for the Barton Highway intersection.
Yes, there is budget for.
I know there was also budget allocation for Williamson, is that right?
No, it's the Barton Highway Williams Slim intersection, the big roundabout.
That's just for the intersection.
Everybody is irritated about.
That's just for the intersection.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the duplication from all the way from Williamsville.
Yeah, I understand that, but the intersection needs to be dealt with first. When we've got that done, then we can talk about the duplication. So there isn't an allocation in this year's budget to duplicate that road.
I was interested in your comment that there's 15%. Does that mean that if you sell off some government housing, you can build some more government housing and get an extra 15%?
And Joe Hockey will send us a cheque for 15% of the sale.
Wow, that's
good. I mean, it's surprising. I mean, but I think even the federal government has realised that infrastructure expenditure is something that needs to be done to get our economy going.
So are you going to? So there is a plan to move people or to get people current residents to buy their own places? Is that how you're going to do it?
Well, there's a whole range of ways in which this can be done. Government's already talking about redeveloping the ABC flats in Reed, and that's a process that's already embarked upon.
It could be a lot of money.
Yeah. It could be.
How many houses do we have?
That's a great question. I think it's 12. I would have said 20.
12,000 dwellings.
12,000 dwellings. Yeah.
That's
So I've got another question.
That's okay.
$6 billion.
You mentioned about the export revenue increase from 7 billion to 1.3 billion.
Yes.
Is that increase from last year to 2030?
No, that's from 2005. Gee, if it increased from last year to 2013, we'd be doing really well. But no, that's a more gradual over from 2005 up to 2013. But it's not insignificant.
Any feedback on allowing the extension of up to 5 years for people to build on land? I'm not sure there's been much community consultation on it. I'm pretty sure that a lot of neighbours would be pretty unhappy if blocks of land are left unkempt for that period of time without anything happening on them.
Can I say something? There was a block of land around my place that was hadn't been built on for 15 years. And how they get one? Well, they might have sold it to somebody else, but it was still vacant for 15 years.
You've got to say, in the current economic climate, that you've got to give a bit of leeway to get things done. Otherwise, once again, you'll be putting more barriers in the way of that infrastructure, which could be either small scale with people building houses or large scale, as I've already talked about, when it's really important to get that going to keep us all working. So there's always a tension between what we want to do ourselves on our block and what our neighbours want us to do on our block.
Sure.
And that can come to what you leave lying around your front yard, how many people you have over on Saturday night, through to the whole gamut of what your house looks like.
I'm glad you brought this up because it brings up an issue that I've 20 years ago, there was an extension on one, and we had to have approval from the surrounding neighbours. They wouldn't even know what to do, and it doesn't affect them. I'm thinking, when I went to the department years ago, the person behind the desk, he said, well, you can put this and you can do that. And so, well, you can't make an assessment unless you see the place. And so the options that you're coming up with actually decreases the value of my home. And I found that there's so many inconsistencies in planning in Canberra. You've got rat traps right next to each other, and yet he said, no, you can't put this there because it's too close and such. But I said, if I go down the road, I can find a house that's only that much gap between each other.
Really?
Quite often you can go and see quite a few houses. And you get a rat down there, you'll die, can't get out. But nevertheless, they get past. So there's a lot of inconsistencies in the planning department. It's always been like that. I'm going back as far as 20 years, but they haven't changed much. So it's all about argument, but the argument's not consistent.
Right.
So this sort of thing.
Okay.
So, Chris, you indicated that there's some money aside for the intersection in Business Street. I presume that's the one at the post office.
That's an intersection that the community council keeps telling me about every time I come out. Yeah.
So you've got some money aside to have a look at what you're going to do about it, or
Let me look what I see in detail. I think it's actually do something, mate. Look, I'll get the details to you and exactly what's planned there.
You're just curious to find out what's actually being planned for, because as indicated previously, this is my first time to anything like this, but it's an issue that sort of keeps keeps on
I think
sitting
so.
around space, nobody seems to know what's going on.
There are 5 intersections that they have looked at. The Assembly was presented with a report in May with some options about how to deal with those intersections. So certainly one was Hinder and Henderson Street. Another one was Kemp's in Hinder Street, which is apparently just as bad.
Yeah.
There's another one, the other side of it, and there's a couple further up into the east. I presume that I didn't see any dollars allocated for it, and I haven't seen any priorities given to what is the preferred remedy for those as yet.
I'll report back.
And the walkway between the two complexes. Any chance you did lights it?
I don't know of any plans to do so, but now if the council wants to request that, we
Which
can
two
start to feed it into the mill.
Between the Woolworths complex and Big W, the walkway through there, across the main road, across the road. It's a bit of a pain in the ass to be quite honest.
Well, one of the issues that I keep on raising, particularly with the LDA and the STD, is that the planning. We're about to get Woolworths extension, so that whole car park is going to be covered. There'll be an extension of the Woolworths store plus 2 or 3 tiers of parking. The Raiders Club is being extended to include the whole block, and the Bunnings store, if they ever decide what to do about the dying tree, will go ahead, and they'll probably all occur at the same bloody time, and it's going to be absolute chaos around this end of town. Hopefully by then our park and ride will be finished. Then we've got to wait for light rail before anything gets done with Nicholson Street. So that's the sort of time frame we're looking at.
That's a good point, actually. The more build-up we have here with things like this, we'll have more congested. Because we're actually not like Toblerone, where the roads are more spacious. We're actually in a congested area, which will have lots of problems in the next 10 years. Because we're going to bottlenecks, people getting out of Bergman College in the mornings, headache, the service station, population comes into the space. We haven't experienced the bad problems there.
We have, and it's our top priority is duplicating Gundaroo Drive from, preferably from the Gungahlin Drive to Mirabai Drive, because just out here near the service station is one of the worst accident spots around.
Well,
It's only a single lane, no bus layovers.
That's right.
Valley Avenue is going to be extended through beside near where the car wash is to join up with that, so that could be even worse.
Well, the Equality Valley, when they came in 2000, and it was the time when Nichols Promenade was being built, and this is when I said to the fellows there, I said, look, it's a big issue, because everybody that has a house will have 2 cars to it, which means those people come out on one single road, go to Belconnen, or even go to the city. It's still been a problem. It should have been addressed many years ago. Especially now, in the last 10, 15 years, population's getting very big out here, very big. And until we address it very, very quickly, it's going to be much, much worse.
Have a look at our website and click on the issues list, and you'll see it's been a regular feature for the last 2 or 3 years. And it's constantly featured in Gunsmoke. And we ramped that one up to be our top issue in the area. But the other thing we really want is the federal government.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know that I can do much about it at this stage.
I believe that there's a tweet from Zed the other week about it, about the probably of reconsideration of DCS. And I said, made a comment, oh, what about Gungahlin? Because that's on the next agenda.
Chris, any comments on the decision by the LDA to take over the control of land release and developments rather than selling huge tracts off to single large developers? I wouldn't mind seeing some form of trade-off as to whether there are better amenities provided in those suburbs, or the current argument is that you give it to a whole raft of individual builders and you get more diversification in styles, unlike what you get up in Gungahlin suburb itself, where you've got same.
Well, some of those bigger block releases for small builders have already been happening, so that's one way that we move forward.
I just wondered where the decision came from. seemed to be a change of heart, although I did hear a whisper that Lend-Lease would never do another forward, so maybe they've experienced some problems.
Well, I can get you some rationale for that decision.
Any truth in the rumour that Gungahlin has been well served with government largesse over the years with the new Oval and Leisure Centre, the government office block, the light rail coming here, so we're not going to get anything else?
What? I mean, you think you've got to the end of the line? No. There's always more for Gungahlin, like everyone else in Canberra.
You just have to make it political issue.
There you go. But, well, I mean, look, you've got the Matura Parkway as well.
I think we're doing pretty well. We consider totally. I was living on that side of town for many years. That had progress.
Yeah, but they've got their own senator, we don't.
I know that. But it took them. But the thing is, they also they had
The sentence is
shopping
supposed to
centre
be
right
all
now
fixed.
it hasn't grown much. I just went through there today. So food court has not changed much in 25 years.
We're just about to embark on a major survey of Gungahlin residents. So I'm actually meeting with a professor in Canberra tomorrow to get it moving. And you'll see in Gunsmoke that we've started holding business breakfasts so we can galvanise the business community. And we're also partnering with communities at work, and we're holding a community forum in here on the 23rd of June with all the service groups and schools and other people to find out what they want in Gungahlin. So we're really making a solid effort to try and find out what the residents want to be out in this area, and plus businesses, so that we can come up with a better
And then
way
you'll be
to go.
telling us almost immediately after.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes, we'll
Yeah,
have a
that's
bigger
good.
priorities list.
So I suppose the Community Council would be excited by the proposals to increase the size of the Assembly and make up 5x5 electorates.
Well, only if a few of them will come out here and live.
Well, you have to say that electorate, if you think about things, you could probably go and have an electorate around and get going.
Yes, the focus of our submission was that we do on our own 5x5 or 5-member electorate, and we will probably have to pinch Kayleen, Girralang and McKellar
Right.
from across the Barton Highway, and that will make up our numbers. But I've extrapolated the growth out here to say that we can pretty well make our quota as long as we get about 9,000 coming in from the next group, and that forms a natural barrier from Jingadera Drive through. And when we grow enough, you can have it back.
Well, yeah. But, I mean, yeah, it'll be a very exciting opportunity for people in Gungahlin with that development, I think.
Yes, well, I did make the comment that we didn't achieve any local residents elected last time. Bearing in mind my comment about the Senator for Tuggeranong, it would be nice to have some local residents representing us and even having local officers out here. Anyway, we'll see how it goes, and look forward to Gungahlin prospering.
Yes, we want that. Good. Okay.
Further questions? Nothing? No? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll leave you to it and bid you goodbye.
Any other issues that people want to raise? Next meeting I've organised for the chair of the ACT Climate Change Council to come and talk to us, Professor Barbara Norman. I've attended a couple of her sessions and I find it particularly fascinating to hear that what we experienced earlier this year with 5 days in a row of over 40 degrees will become the norm in about 20 or 30 years. So somehow we've got to start looking to make sure that we've got enough water, greenery, housing design, access to transport and facilities to cope with that, because one of the real concerns is that if we have an increasing number of younger and old people out here, they're going to need quick access to medical and other support services. So we probably should be angling to get our own hospital out here in the future. can't rely on road services. Even minutes make a difference. So one of the things that we think is a top priority is having our health centre upgraded to a nurse walking centre fairly soon. So since we've missed out on the subacute hospital, if we get Williamson and Gulfport Drive upgraded, we can at least get the Union Canberra quicker. But 20 years down the track, the less we might benefit very much from having our own full service hospital down here as well. And we've got to start planning for this because we're running out of land.
What's the percentage of seniors that live in?
It's growing.
Do we know the percentage? Well, I think of the walking centre for seniors. Because that'd be the percentage as high as
well, even for kids, because most of the doctor's surgeries close down at midday and Saturday. Kids don't stop getting damaged at that time.
I mean,
they last the whole
everybody,
weekend.
but I think the percentage will be higher for seniors.
Yeah. We'll be getting more and more seniors coming out here. It seems to be attractive. Okay. Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you.